Mike Enslin is a depressed and cynical writer, traveling to every alleged haunted place he can to add another chapter to another one of his top 10 spooky novels. He ghosted his wife after the death of their daughter, and he turned to heavy drinking and pouring all of his focus into his passionless writing. But he wishes more than anything that he could actually feel some presence of the supernatural. But all of that changes when he receives a postcard warning him not to enter room 1408 in the Dolphin Hotel. When the hotel manager tries to plead and even bribe Mike not to stay in the room, and he fails, he's left with no choice but to give him the key. The manager tells him it's not haunted, that it isn't a poltergeist, but simply 1408 is an evil fucking room. But once Mike enters the room, he realizes that it truly is evil when he sees the ridiculous price of alcohol in the minibar. As you've probably guessed, most of this movie takes place in room 1408, making this movie feel a bit boxed in, and you're going to be spending a lot of time with John Cusack. Fortunately, he's pretty likable here. I mean, he's a sarcastic asshole, but his performance is entertaining enough to carry this movie. As he spends more and more time in this room, you'll watch him slowly start to lose his mind, and he hams it up, but it's fun. The other big actor in the movie is Samuel Jackson. He's in it for, less than 10 minutes. He's great. He's doing everything in his power to keep Mike alive, but Mike insists on dying. Olin is all too aware of how horrible this room is, and that anyone that enters it winds up snapping and committing suicide. He really is haunted by the room, and his little screen time is humorous and enjoyable. But the best character in the movie isn't Olin. Hell, it isn't even Mike. The best character is the evil room itself, 1408. This room has more character and personality than most horror film villains. 1408 isn't just gonna rattle you with loud noises and spooky ghosts. The Dolphin has a fine reputation, and 1408 shows some class. While you're not looking, it'll manifest some chocolates on your bed. It'll fold up your toilet paper. Hell, it'll even show you some home movies and play some Carpenters for you. The room is even thoughtful enough to give you a visual reminder of when checkout is. When he speaks with front desk, the female operator is also really sinister but funny. There's a bunch of little touches that make this movie feel really unique. Of course, you can't just leave 1408, and you'll believe that. Mike exhausts just about every option you can think of. Screaming for help, slamming on the walls, climbing through the window to the other room, but that doesn't go so well. Climbing through the vents, but that just leads to hallucinations and winding up back where he started. This isn't an escape room, it's a little private piece of hell, and 1408 mostly avoids cheap jump scares to be exciting. It has a bigger focus on being engaging and telling an enjoyable story, with a unique sense of style. It has a decently strong screenplay, but it's the filmmaking and the technical stuff that gets a little out of hand. It doesn't matter what is happening on screen. No matter what it is, just about every action on screen is shown through a handful of cuts. Every second, a different camera, a new angle. It's hectic and jarring enough to even make Baz Luhrmann disoriented. It's like they didn't have enough faith that a mostly single location movie with a single actor could keep audiences' attention. So every shot is filmed like they're shooting an action scene. Also, this movie isn't totally void of jump scares and ghosts popping out. It happens, and it's always really lame. When the movie is trying to be malicious and quirky, it's awesome. But when it tries to actually scare you, it falls completely flat. It works as a psychological horror, but it feels like it's trying its hardest to please the people that aren't actually engaging with it. Another small gripe I have is that nobody in the room lasts over an hour. That's fine. But Mike is chilling out in 1408 for a while before his countdown starts. A couple of minutes would have been fine, as a last chance to change his mind while he's observing the room. But it takes 11 minutes, movie time, for the countdown to start. For him, it had to have been closer to like 20 minutes. There's this whole redundant and pointless scene where he has a mechanic come up to his room to lower the temperature and he won't come in because it's haunted. And Samuel Jackson already explained all this. Okay, I'm nitpicking. With less than 15 minutes left on the clock, the room starts tearing itself apart and Mike somehow escapes. He ends up back on the beach, which ties in perfectly with a scene earlier in the movie. He meets up with his wife and tries to make amends. He investigates into the room again, but it's like it doesn't exist. He writes a whole book titled 1408 about his experiences in the room. And now, long after the nightmare has ended, his reality is shattered around him and he's right back in the room, now with just a few minutes remaining. His daughter walks into the room and he gets to hold her again, and she dies in his arms and turns to ash. It's heartbreakingly tragic, and I think it's fair to say it's pretty fucking evil. Now, a completely broken man, Mike lies on the ground, watching the clock finally reach 0. And then it's back to normal, like nothing happened. And the clock starts over again, 60 minutes remaining. The room won't let him escape, and he's going to keep reliving this hour until he kills himself. This alone would have made an incredible ending. This fantastical twist that you have to keep reliving the same torment over and over and over again until you finally bite the bullet. The movie could have ended here and it would have been an impactful, if not totally satisfying ending. But this isn't the ending. Mike decides to light the room on fire. If he's gonna die, he's taking the room with him. The movie could have also ended here, but, well, it doesn't. And this is the point where 1408 becomes a choose-your-own-adventure, depending on the version of the movie that you decide to watch. If you watch the director's cut, which is definitely the most accessible version of the movie, unless you have the theatrical cut DVD, you'll get to witness Mike burning himself alive along with the room. Samuel Jackson takes the tape recorder to his funeral to try to comfort his widowed wife, but she respectfully declines. He then gets jump scared by a crispy Mike, which doesn't make any sense, and then we watch Mike wandering around 1408 as a ghost. It's terrible. Then there's the theatrical cut, which I apologize for the quality, it's the best they've got. The ending where Mike kills the room, but he is rescued by a group of firefighters. As he's unboxing his belongings at his old home, he finds his tape recorder, and on it, he can hear his daughter speaking to him, proving that his experience in the room wasn't imaginary, that this really happened. Now, I swear when I saw this back in the theater, his wife hears the tape too, and they both start crying. She believes him, and it's hauntingly beautiful, kind of bittersweet. It's not a terrific ending, but it's alright. I swear this Blu-ray is gaslighting me because it says this is a theatrical ending on the disc menu, but in this version, he just sits there listening to it and watches her unpack his stuff, because he's still an asshole. I know this isn't the ending I'd seen before, and people online have described it as I remember, so I don't know what's going on. 1408 is an interesting experience. As a concept, it's brilliant, and some of its ideas would make for a really great movie, but due to sloppy filmmaking and some questionable decisions with the screenplay, you'll probably be a little let down. I still recommend watching it, but it's always a bigger letdown when something could have been great. 1408 has dozens of brilliant and memorable moments, and it has dozens of bizarre and awkward and terrible moments. I do think it's a decent enough movie, and the good definitely outweighs the bad, but unfortunately, it never rises up to its potential.
We've only just begun to live. White lace and promises, a kiss for luck and we're on our way.
We've only begun.